Mountain said that all these things mean to say the Malach that's the source of it, that's in charge of it, that's who said those things. Even though we say the Malachim also speak, and we just wrote a Gemara that the Malachim speak, but nevertheless, Malachim in general are more associated with the realm of Sameach, of plant life. So let's look at the next piece, 35. Bim kol zeh, nevertheless, he mekayrim abchinas hatzameach. The angels are mainly the original source in Sameach, not for humans, but for plants. Why? Bohem uiker b'chinas avidus, shem b'chinas tzmicha, katnus v'gadlus. The koydem hashlichus l'shas hashlichus, koydem hashira l'shas hashira. We're on page 35, the bottom. What is the association between Malachim and things in the plant kingdom? They said what's unique about the plant kingdom, what defines the plant kingdom, its uniqueness, is the growth. Humans grow, but you can't completely compare how the growth is so much more pronounced in plants than in humans. A human being grows from a little of nothing into whatever, 4, 5, 6 feet. With plants and with trees, we see the growth of a little seed becoming a tree that's could be hundreds of feet high, hundreds of branches, hundreds of leaves, hundreds of fruits. So the nature of growth we see more in plants than we see in humans. And in the same way, that's one of the differences between malachim and humans. That what is the thing that characterizes humans is mainly seichel, the intellect. What characterizes angels is mainly emotion, midos. Like we talk about this in davening, how the angels are on fire and they say Kaddish and Baruch, and they're racing back and forth. And or as we learned yesterday, that some angels actually have so much emotion that they get burnt up by their own fire, and they only live for one day, and at the end of the day they're gone because they became included in their source. So generally speaking, the difference between midas and seichel is that the nature of growth you see more in midas than you see in seichel. Let's look at the last lines on page 35. Im kol zeh hi mekayim al pchinas hatzamiach. The angels, they're the source for the vegetation of the plant kingdom. Ki behem hu iker b'chinas hamidas. By them, the primary thing that's more pronounced is their midas, their emotions. Shehem b'chinas tzmicha, katnus v'gadnus. And with their emotion, that's where you see growth from something very small becoming very big. And where do we see that? Koydem hashlichus, l'shas hashlichus. You know that malachim are sent on messengers. Hashem sends them on shlichus. Tells them, Allah, go to Avram and tell him this, go to Lot and do that, go to Zdaim and turn over the city. Malachim have a certain shlichus of what they have to do. So before the malach does the shlichus, and after, it's a world of a difference, not just a small difference, a world of a difference. Or for example, the malach, before he sings the songs of praise to Hashem, and after he sings the songs of praise to Hashem, there's a tremendous transition. And I'll soon explain where we see that. Good morning. The growth and the change is on a very large scale. When a malach is doing his shlichus, the malach could actually refer to himself as if he is Hashem. Which, because like it says, Binishbati, the Umavaya. This is the story when the Malach was speaking to Hagar. And he said to him, and I have sworn by myself, and he may give a message to Hagar. He didn't swear, he's a Malach. Hashem is the one that swore. But the Malach is so much bottle. Meis Hashlich is bottle legamrei. He's so bottle and so much doesn't have his own independent entity. That he can be referred to by the name of the Mishalech, which is Hashem. There is battle komusa legamrei shemer rak keich hashlichus. It's as if he's nothing more than just a shlichus. I know if it's a good mashal, but if somebody is speaking and he's using a microphone, so you don't really hear his voice. You hear the voice coming out of the speaker, right? That's why, for example, you can't make Havdalah on a microphone, on a telephone, or even a microphone. You have to hear a human voice. The microphone is not a human voice, it's an electronic voice. But the electronic voice is really my voice coming through the microphone. So someone's going to say that the speaker said that I did this and this. The speaker didn't do anything. The person did it. How come the speaker is saying that? And the answer is the speaker isn't saying anything. It's the person speaking through the speaker. The speaker is daiming. The speaker is inanimate, has no life of its own. So whatever you hear is the person speaking through the speaker. This happened at a dinner. I think it was Rabbi Hecht, actually, the senior Rabbi Hecht, that he got to speak and kept getting cut off. And then he said, finally, when they got it to work, he said, I'm sorry to tell you, but they found out that the speaker has a screw loose. It was a screw loose in the speaker, but not the speaker. This speaker, not that speaker. When a malach speaks, he's so bottled to Hashem that it's Hashem speaking. So therefore, when the malach says the words, I have sworn in my name, it's Hashem. So before the malach is a shliach, he's an angel, and he has his own identity, like we have an identity. Once he does the shlichus, it's a transformation on a huge scale. He becomes just an expression of Hashem. As a commercial tzameach, shemishtan mekatos begadlus. So this is like we see growth in the plant kingdom that there's a huge change. It becomes from something very small to something very big. That's why they are the source for tzameach down here. Even though they also have speech, and the next level is medaber. Humans are called medaber, that they speak. So I would think that the malachim should be the source for humans. Says no, because the ikar, what's the primary thing for a malach is the midas, are the emotions. And emotions is something which expresses the nature of growth. It says in the Medrash, Kol mash yesh l'mayla, yesh l'mata. Everything that exists up there, there's a counterpart to it down here. So, for example, there's a pasuk that says Srafim Eindim l'mayla, that there are angels that are called Srafim, and they stand up there. Down here it says Atzei Shitim Eindim. There are these trees that are called Shitim trees, and they're standing. In other words, what the Medrash is saying is really what we learn about it. So this, that the trees which are atashitim, being that the Torah uses the term eindim, is because they come from the source up there, which is also eindim, which is srafim. Or another pasuk, it says, "Oh, Yoranano kolatzei yohar." I usually like to show you where it is in the reference book. So if you have it next to you, these are page 50. It's describing the chariot. It says King The Eretz Hashem, I saw Hashem sitting on a throne, and there was Seraphim. Seraphim is the name of a certain type of angels, and they're standing above him. So those words correspond to these words, which is Atzi Shitim Oimdim. The next page, 51, we say this in davening, Oz Yiranu Kol Atzei Yoar, all the trees of the forest will sing. What does it mean? Not the trees sing, but the malachim are singing. And the malachim and the trees of the forest are evolved from the malachim. And by the way, this is also an explanation to other things in Chumash. One of the things that we see in Chumash, which on the surface should be shocking, it describes Hashem like a human being. That Hashem's eyes. In davening we say, let our words reach Hashem's ears. And as Yeshua says that Hashem lifts his right hand. We just here saw a pasuk that says Hashem sits on a throne. How could you say he sits? How could you say he sees with his eyes? But if you say he would see, but it says his eyes. And it says it reaches his ears. Then we have another pasuk that says Hashem creates the world with the breath of his mouth. He doesn't have a mouth, he doesn't have eyes, he doesn't have ears, and yet we're using all these terms. So we know the general answer is it's a metaphor, which means Hashem does something spiritually which is similar to what we do physically. But what you're reading here explains it much deeper. It's not only that the physical eyes, we can draw a parallel between the functioning of our physical eyes and a certain level in Shamayim, which is also called eyes, or the functioning of our physical ears, and there's something up there in the spiritual realm, which is called Hashem's ears. Not only that, you can draw the parallel. The physical ears that we have evolved from that place, which is called Hashem's ears. And that's why it's called Hashem's ears. It's the place in the spiritual realm that's the source for ears. And that's the place in the spiritual realm that's the source for eyes. And the other one is the place in the spiritual realm that's the source for the mouth, for the nose, for the right arm, for sitting. In other words, everything in the physical has a source in the spiritual. And the same over here. When it says, and the trees were singing, it's referring to the malachim, the angels. They're the source of the trees. Now, at the bottom of page 37, now we're going to talk about the rooster. Just like this applies to the realm of Tzemeach, which is the plant kingdom, Desha, Ve'esa is grass and trees. The same principle applies. The whole Devarim, David Tzemeach, Chaim Medaber. My separations, page 39. It applies to everything. It applies to living, inanimate things. It applies to, of course, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and even the human kingdom. Everything was created when Hashem created the world. Like it says in the statement of our sages, Katkori Tarnagolta, Nevarech Hanesim Lasech. When we hear the rooster crowing, we make the bracha. Hanesim Lasech Levina. Hashem gives the rooster the understanding that the rooster could distinguish between day and night and knows to do his cantorial piece when it becomes day. Why is it connected to the time that the rooster crows? When the rooster crows, then it's an obligation to say this bracha. Why not before? It's a general bracha, just like you make a bracha for everything else. Why does it have to be at that moment? So here again, we're going to explain that when the rooster crows, something's going on up there on one level, and on a higher level, and on a higher level, and it evolves down here. So when we see the rooster crowing, we know what's going on up there. I mean, maybe you can say lahavdil, but if you're looking at a screen right? And in the screen, you see a person who, let's say, right now in Eretz Yisrael, they're speaking or they're walking or doing something. Are you seeing the person or are you seeing the image of the person? Not the real person. The real person is a few thousand miles away. But when you look at the image, every movement in the image is an expression. It's the image and the reflection of what that person is doing. Every detail. So basically, when the rooster crows, something very similar is happening up there. But that's something spiritual. We don't see that. What we do see is the rooster crowing. Same way. What is it? What we see down here as a rooster, once you finish this miming, you'll look very differently at every rooster that you're going to see. This should have been before we did Kaparas, that would have been different. What we see down here as a rooster, the Maila B'Shar Sharsha B'Yitziru Malach Gabriel. Up there, it's actually the angel of Gabriel. And all the roosters in the world, their source is Malach Gabriel. And Malach Gabriel himself, what's his source? V'Sharsha B'Atzilus, his source is, Hey Gvur is the Bina. Shemayrim Pinis HaMalchus. So first of all, we mentioned yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the difference between Michael and Gabriel is Michael is Chesed and Gabriel is Gevura. You have a hard time remembering, it's very simple. Gabriel is spelled with the same letters as the word Gevura. Gimel, Beis, Rage. That'll help you remember which is Gevura, which is Chesed. So Malach Gabriel is the one that's Gevura. And the source of Malach Gabriel is, of course, from a higher place. What's the higher place? Hey, Gvura is the Bina. It comes from the world of Bina. And in Bina itself is from the five Gvuras of Bina. Shema'erim Chinas HaMalchus, Me'irdasa. I'm just going to say words, but this is going to be through the Kabbalah, but I'll explain it soon. B'ri Yitzir Asiyah B'chol Laila K'veshakasu. Atakom B'Laila, Latitin Terev Levesa. B'chateis Laila, Me'irim Hey Gvuras the Bina, Es HaMalchus, Me'irdasa, B'ri Yitzir Asiyah. Salas B'Atzilas Kanova. Okay. I think we have terms over here, so maybe that would be a good idea. Do we have terms here? Yeah. You go to the back of the booklet. The references, by the way, is something that you could really not. But this, I think I'll have to make a separate copy just in the terms, so you can write in your notes. So look at number 6. Hey, Gvur is the Bina. What? Page 78. Sorry. Yeah. First of all, one of the differences between Chokhmah and Bina is also that Chokhmah is Chesed and Bina is Gvura. In general, Chokhmah is more Chesed and Bina is more Gevura. Why? Basically, Gevura is the attribute that makes. What does Gevura mean? Gevura means limitations, to limit things in one way or another. And Chesed is no limitations, generally speaking. So the whole idea of division of parts, separations of one thing, being separated from another and different than another, that comes from Gvura. Gvura doesn't mean something negative. It's a mistake. Sometimes people think Gvura means punishment, or Gvura means who knows what. No, Gvura could be positive and Gvura could be negative. But Gvura basically means breaking things up into details. That's Gvura. Now this is like when you classify things, when you categorize things, this belongs here, that belongs there, this belongs in a different category. Anything that has to do with division, dividing, and breaking things up into parts, that's Gvura. Because Gvura means that this ends over here, this is the border, this is one thing, and this is something else. And the difference is that's what Gura does, and that's the difference between Chachma and Bina. Chachma is when you understand the concept in a general way, and you have the essence of the concept, the main point of the concept that includes all the details. Bina is when you start breaking it down into details. So therefore, Bina is associated with Gura. You got that part? No? Yeah? Okay. What does it mean by hey Guras, 5 Guras? So the number 5 is also connected to breaking things down to details. And it says that in the realm of Bina, there are 5 parts. So one of the things where we see this is, for example, the hand of a person, we have 5 fingers. What does the 5 fingers accomplish? If a person with chas v'sholom be created differently, there are no 5 fingers, just a hand and a fist. He could move, but there's no way in the world you'll be able to make all the different intricate movements and forms and shapes without fingers. The fact that you can make all the forms and shapes that we could make in drawing, in writing, the letters of a language, all these differences only come because of the finger. So you could make differences, which means that the hand itself is general movement, and the fingers break it down to details. How many fingers do we have? 5 fingers, which means the path to break things down to details is generally five things. If you remember, we learned in the Geras Tshuva something similar about the voice, talking about a voice, that when a person speaks, the voice is general. It's the same voice, whether you say Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Daled, whether you say this word or that word. But as I speak, and the voice goes through different parts of the mouth, that's what breaks it down to different letters. So there are letters that come from the lips, a letter that comes from the teeth, a letter that comes from the tongue, like the nun, and the lamed, and the mem comes from the lips, and the zayin comes from the teeth. There are 5 gateways, 5 paths through which the voice gets broken up into 5 details. Yep. If that's connected to the number 50, which is also 5. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I don't remember seeing that, but it fits into the picture, right? Because in Chassidus, when there's a number 5 or 50 or 500 or 5,000, even though they're different numbers, but basically there's a number 5. Yeah.
Well, when someone turns 40, is that also like that they're going to a state of like more Gevura? Or it's not?
Again, but this Gevura doesn't mean Gevura more strict or more, we're talking about Gevura in a certain context. Gevura in an understanding that I'd be able to get the details, I'd be able to break things down. Just like when you eat food, if you just take the food and there wouldn't be the process of breaking it down, it wouldn't be healthy to swallow it. We have teeth, and there's a whole process where the food is broken down. And when it's broken down, that's when it could be integrated into different parts of the body. So the breaking down is not a negative thing, it's just a process. But that process, anything that breaks things down to details is called Gevura. Another example of Gevura with number 5 is the Aleph Beis. There are 5 letters that are called final letters. The Mem, the Nun, the Pei, the Tzadik, the Chaf. What does the final letter mean? That these letters end the word. Other letters don't necessarily mean it's the end. But if you put down a final Nun, it means it's the end of the word. The final Chaf is the end of the word. Final Tzadik is the end of a word. In other words, these are 5 letters that they end. They put a stop to the word, which is again Gevura. So the source of the rooster is Malach Gabriel, and the source of Malach Gabriel is higher, is from the sphere of Bina and from the 5 Gevuras in Bina. By the way, when you did Hashyness, we were told that we should slap it on the floor 5 times. You take a look in the Siddur again, you'll see that corresponds to the 5 Gevuras. And that's actually to sort of protect us that it shouldn't be any Gevura in a negative way. Or another example is on Pesach. We're told that the matzah that they put away Papi Kaiman should be broken up into 5 pieces. Over there it also says the 5 pieces correspond to the 5 Gevuras. So that's the number 5. Every world is Gvura. There's Gvura in Atzilus, there's Gvura in Bria, there's Gvura in Yitzira, Gvura in Asiya, and Gvura down here. But I just want to make it clear that Gvura, very often people associate it with something negative. But that's not true. Gvura just means to break things down into detail. That's Gvura. So Bina is considered Gvura, and the Chachma is considered Chesed. Okay. So now we're drawing a parallel between what the rooster does, what Gabriel does, what Kuras do, each one on their level. We have a page on that too back here. Do we? Where's the book? No. The reference books. Want to give me one of these? Thank you. Yeah, look at page 76. Mrs. Yafi made a nice rooster here. Okay. So what does the rooster do for us down here? We're sleeping, and we're supposed to get up. Chatzos. He said he gets up every night after midnight to sing to Hashem and to learn at night. So the rooster is there to wake us up. So just like down here, the rooster wakes up the person to get up and serve Hashem. In the world of Bria and Yetzirah, something similar happens. It says that after midnight, Hashem says to all the neshamas and the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, we're now going to go for a walk. We're now spend some time together. And at night, the neshamas are also sleeping. Whatever sleeping means up there. So Malach Gabriel, he's the one that wakes up the neshamas over there and says to them, get up, Hashem is now coming out, and now he wants you to spend time with him. And what's the source of that? So in Atzilus, in the higher world, Malchus of Atzilus, let's see the words inside here. In Eishes Chaya, we say these words, Batakom ba'id laila. She gets up in the middle of the night. Batitin tev levesa. She gives food to her home, to the children at home. That means that sphere of Malchus, the woman represents the sphere of Malchus. That the sphere of Malchus spiritually descends at night. And then comes a time where Malchus has to go back up to its source. So the Hey, Gevuras of Bina, they're the ones, that's the source, whatever it means in Kabbalah, it wakes up Surya HaMalchus to go up to its source. So all three, again, they're parallel, but each one in a different world. Here's Malchus going down and has to go up. Here the Neshamas are supposedly sleeping, whatever that means, and Malach Gabriel wakes them up to go up to Hashem. And here we're sleeping, and the rooster wakes us up to get up and daven and learn whatever we need to do after Chatzos. So there's a 3-level chain reaction of what's happening when a rooster wakes us up. Each one needs to be explained, but we need a lot of background, so we can't go into that. But just this is the general idea. Maybe here in the footnotes they go more into more details. Yeah.
I'm like after, like until midnight, like kind of in. So, like, would that be
So obviously, like I said, there's many aspects to Gemara. That Gemara is a different kind of Gemara, probably, and that's why that's a kind of a Gemara that we don't do certain things because it's a time of Gemara. But here it's talking about hey, Gemara is the Bina, so maybe that's different. So even though the words sound the same, but it depends on what context it's used, and that'll make a huge difference. So page 41. All the souls, meaning the Neshamas, or even the angels that are in the world of Bria, the world of Yetzirah, the world of Asiya. After midnight, Hashem comes to spend time with these Neshamas in Gan Eden. The Malach Gabriel wakes up the Neshamas and tells them, get up, it's time to spend time now with Hashem. And the same is down here in this world. After midnight, it says in Tillim, David HaMelech said, I get up after midnight to praise you. Oz, that time, that's when the rooster crows. Gabriel, because the rooster's source is from Gabriel. So just like Gabriel is waking up the Neshamas, the rooster, which is evolves from Gabriel, wakes up the people down here. That the rooster, when it crows and makes its loud noise, it's not doing this on its own. Again, this is a metaphor, but it says there are two flames of fire under its wings, and that makes it crow, makes it make noise and wake up, which means there's something going on up there that causes the rooster to do something down here. I remember once, that was 1971. There was an interesting story that Rebbe went to the oil. It was Tu B'Shvat, and he came back from the oil, and he said, made a farbrengen. It was a sudden farbrengen, no one expected it. I remember I was at that time with a group of students in Yeshiva in Ocean Parkway. We all came running in to Crown Heights, and by the farbrengen, the Rebbe said, the time has come to conquer the world through Torah. One of the Miftzayim is called Miftzah Torah. Now it's just common practice in all communities. Adult classes, adults studying Torah. In other words, we know kids go to yeshiva, but adults, they graduated already. The idea of integrating and establishing it all over in all communities that people study Torah. It's a very interesting thing because once the Rebbe came up with that, we found one would think first somebody has to be religious, has to be from interest in Yiddishkeit, and then I can invite him in to learn Torah. Today it's the reverse. First people learn Torah, and that is what inspires them to get more involved in Yiddishkeit. So anyway, the Rebbe said that, and a few months later, it became known that at that time, the United States of America, I have to go back a little bit. In those days, everybody had to go to the army. And the only people that were exempt from going to the army were students who were studying in university or students studying in yeshiva. Apparently, someone in the government came up that students studying university, they should be exempt from going to the army. Students studying in yeshiva, they shouldn't be exempt. And they wanted to make that as a law in America. Yeah. So the Rebbe said the fact that there was a campaign to conquer the world through Torah, that canceled this decree that they wanted to make, that there shouldn't be any Torah learning, and instead of studying Torah, to go to the army. Then the Rebbe added and said, it's not that I knew that that's what's happening, but I was like the rooster. something was going on up there. So I felt down here, I would felt compelled, have to come out with some sort of campaign about Torah study. Rabbi used the example, like the rooster. In other words, something's going on up there, and that's why you're doing something down here. So most of us, unfortunately, we don't do things because something's going on up there. We do it because something's going on down here. But by tzaddikim, yes, there's something going on up there. They feel it, and as a result of that, and this happened often when the Rebbe would come, especially from the oil, and say something which was something new, something different. The Rebbe didn't say, I spoke to my father-in-law and he told me to do this and that, even though it did happen once or twice. The Rebbe said such a thing. Okay. So when the rooster crows, it's really not the natural order of the rooster to do it, but it's because the rooster is connected to Gabriel, and up there, that's what's happening. So down here, the rooster does the same thing. The nimtza, so what comes out is kabirchas beisel and vino. This bracha is not just the rooster down here. It's al sherish u'makar shabatzilus. It really refers to the original source in Atzilus, which is the 5 gurus of Bina, or b'malchus Atzilus, or in malchus Atzilus. And then look, and this Maimer goes into more details about it. So that's why Zman bracha zu udavke b'zman kriyas hatarnago. Because when the rooster is crowing, now we know that this is what's going on Lamaila. We don't see what's going up there. We see what's going on down here. But from what's going on down here, we know that now up there is the time where this happens with the Hey Gvura Sabina, and this is what happens with the angel Gabriel. Oz manch Gabriel Ma'ira Tzadikim Ulamata, V'gdeish Yaakov V'chatzeis Laila L'Hoides, Kaira Azak Tanagar L'Eir Sonam in Ashina. So that means, and this is, by the way, an answer to a lot of questions. A lot of things in Torah, when you look at the reason that's given, you say, okay, I understand the reason, but it's missing a little bit of salt and pepper. It just doesn't feel like this is the full reason, and that's why. But when we realize that everything that's here physical comes from a spiritual place, and the reason why we do things is not only because of what we see physical. On the contrary, it's mainly relating to something on a higher spiritual plane, which is the source of the physical. Then it becomes more clear, even though we don't understand the details, but it becomes more clear why we're doing what we're doing, because this is what relates to what's going on a higher spiritual plane. And of course, that explains a lot of things about mitzvahs. You know, when the person says, I can understand why we need a mezuzah, but the details, that baffles me. If it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it's such a big deal. It's on the right side, the left side. If there's a fraction of a letter missing, it's already no good. So if you look at the mezuzah just as it is, something physical, almost like a sign, this is a Jewish home, we believe in Hashem in this house, everything that goes in and everything that goes out is sort of being scanned by the mezuzah, being done according to the mezuzah, then you would say the little details shouldn't matter. But if you realize, no, when you put up a mezuzah, you're really connecting to the source of the mezuzah, something up there in the spiritual realm, then a little something could make the difference, yes or no. Okay. To be continued, yeah.
Don't do a research and make up something.
That's why we make the bracha, obviously. Yeah. There.